Fear fills the DC universe. Here's your look at the DC Collectibles DC Essentials Yellow Lantern Sinestro. DC Essentials is a line of 7-inch action figures based on DC characters with universal appeal, accessible to both longtime collectors and those just starting out, which delivers authentic detail from a company with 2 decades of experience creating high-quality action figures. Once hailed as the greatest Green Lantern, Sinestro has now harnessed the ability to instill fear as a source of power. Will Hal Jordan be able to stop the evil Sinestro? Pair him with your DC Essentials Green Lantern action figure to find out. A fine-looking Sinestro, but how tall is he? Let's go ahead and take the tape measure, put it right to the very top of his head. That's more like it. Finally hitting what I believed was that sweet spot number that I couldn't quite get for Hal Jordan, who I clocked at 7.1 inches. I think most, if not all, these figures stand at around 7 inches in height, Sinestro being no exception. 7 inches tall is the new DC Essentials Sinestro. And how tall is that in centimeters? Let's find out right now. 17.8 centimeters tall. Of course, this does wrap up our reviews of the first wave of figures that we had to look at for the DC Essentials line. I must say, a good selection of characters. I would have been a little bit more disappointed if we didn't get some villains in the mix, and luckily we do get Sinestro and somewhat Catwoman, depending on, again, what her mood was for the day. Not a bad, like I said, lineup of DC Essentials, this newest wave. Whether the future is bright as the greenest light, we won't actually know just yet. For what I know, we don't really have any idea yet what we're going to be getting for future waves of DC Essentials. I'm hoping that the line is going to continue to run, providing, again, we can fix some of the problems that, as we all know, have been plaguing this line up to this point. One of those problems happens to be the fact that they don't have any accessories. The lack of accessories, I think, is one big strike to this particular line. I know over the countless reviews that I've done of this line, one of the ongoing things I always say is to make this the essential line. You really want to make this a definitive version, of, in this case, of Sinestro. And what goes and makes a figure definitive? Well, the fact of including, for example, a Green Lantern, or in this case, a Sinestro Lantern, would have, I think, made it crucial. And yet, unfortunately, these figures don't have it. Nor does he have necessarily the means to hold it. But I guess unlike Hal Jordan, who only had a dynamic hand, Sinestro sort of has like a more gripping hand, or a sinister hand, if you will, that you could have at least draped a lantern across that. But unfortunately, he doesn't come with it. Other things I think could have also made these essentials was including display stands, which again, this figure so far in this line, all of these figures, do not come with any display stand. McFarlane's been doing it now with all of his figure releases, keeping consistently that same circular display base. I really think DC Collectibles could have followed suit and done the exact same thing earlier by just giving us circular bases with just, like I said, DC Essentials or something along the bottom. Anyways, being that we don't have really any accessories to look at, it's quite easy then to go right into having a look at Sinestro, and the best place to start that is with his head portrait. Possibly could be the best Sinestro head sculpt I think we've ever gotten. And I know this is all bold statements to make. I've said that a couple of times now in these DC Essentials reviews that I think these are definitely one of the better head sculpts out there. Catwoman is still maybe not as good as the DC Direct version, but there's no denying, at least for me, that that's definitely one of the better Sinestros, if not one of the best Sinestro head sculpts that we've ever gotten. He gets forfeited by, unfortunately, the fact that he has to go Sinestro Corp. I would have loved to see just a regular take on Sinestro with his old classic colors and costume, instead of actually having to go the route of Sinestro Corp Sinestro all the time. Ever since we started getting him in DC Universe line, it seems like all the frequent releases of Sinestro after the fact have all put him in the yellow clad costume. And that's fine and good, but I would love to have seen just a regular costume Sinestro as well. Of course, on the front there and on his armband, He has the new Sinestro Corp logo, which is a slight departure, just really more so from the bottom section, from the regular Green Lantern Corps. The colors, of course, are the more opposing opposite colors to the color green. And well done, actually done here. It's more of a kind of more warmer yellow. One thing I least like is that the colors are consistent. Sometimes yellows especially are real difficult to carry over, so that every area of the costume that has that same yellow, the yellow looks all the same. But they managed to pull that off. The areas over the shoulders, the bands, and even the sections of his gloves, the gauntlets on his arms, I should say, all carry that same sort of honey yellow. And it's a really nice yellow that they went with, in fact. Paint also on this guy, as I continue to spin him around, stays pretty clean, consistent on him. Yes, there are areas where it gets slightly more smudged instead of a stark line. But other than that, I'm really happy and impressed with how this one turned out. The belt is a little messy, or what would be the equivalent of his belt, this section right here. Again, being that they've airbrushed that on, there are areas where you don't get the most sharpest of line forming, and you get a little bit of that happening right there. One thing, as I had already mentioned, he does have the more sinister looking hand. What a perfect way to describe a hand for this villain. I like that the hand isn't the same hand that we got with Hal Jordan. It's something a little bit different. Certainly power hungry would be the best way to describe that hand. And then on the other hand, literally, he does have his ring. The Sinestro Ring is actually sculpted, so you can make out, hopefully, providing the camera will permit that, you can actually make out that there's the Sinestro logo right there. Really nicely done. I like that. I mean, you keep in mind the fact that these older figures would have simply just put a splotch of paint, a circular dab of paint, and that would have sufficed for a ring. The fact that they would actually go in there and sculpt a ring is pretty impressive indeed. As for the rest of the figure, I mean, you're pretty much keeping to the same basics that what we got with Hal Jordan. In fact, I mean, you can like look at this figure and you can look at Hal Jordan, which I'll go ahead and grab right now, and you look at them side to side, up and down, and you'll see, yes, they are the exact same figure. The only thing that Hal Jordan got awarded was the fact that he did get at least sculpted boots that went over top of the leg, where Sinestro basically just gets those painted in. And painted in is fine as well. I don't expect these to be sculpted as additional pieces. I'm fine for the fact they just simply painted those in. But yeah, the bodies are still a continuation. You got to believe if this line had flourished and given us many subsequent lines, subsequent waves, I wonder how many different body molds we would have actually gotten. I guess we'll maybe never know. Again, the future of this line is sort of up in the air. We really don't even know what's going to be coming of it. I'll be sad a bit in a way that the line does die, as I've been really happy with the head sculpts. And for the most part, the releases that we've gotten on this figure, like the Reverse Flash, is still one of my favorite Reverse Flash figures I've ever gotten. And I feel almost the same way saying that when it comes to Sinestro. The pointed ears, the coloring on his face, the eyes themselves, just fantastic looking sculpts. It's definitely one of the better things that DC Collectibles are doing right about this line. Yes, say what you will about all the negative points. And yes, there are negative points we certainly can't overlook. But I would think at least, if the legacy of this line is left behind, we could say, if anything, dang nabbit, they really did good head sculpts. Like, just definitely one of the best Sinestros I've seen. Having a look at this guy's articulation, I'm sort of expecting this line to stop and cease to exist. I mean, I really shouldn't do that. You never know, we might actually still see a continuation of this line moving forward. I really hope that this line continues to come out. I mean, obviously, improvements should be made when it comes to things like ankles and missing of accessories, but I certainly don't want this line to just cease to exist. It's put out a lot of good figures, some better than others. I mean, this is a Sinestro that's much better than Cyborg Superman, which is, I feel, one of the weakest figures that we've gotten from the DC Essentials line, but this is one of the better ones. This is definitely one of the better ones. I got sidetracked. I'm sorry for that. Articulation, this guy's head rotates all the way around. He does have a hinge that goes up and down on the head, but you can't move it too much. I mean, you can move it up, yes, but moving it down, that's as far down as I seem to be able to get it. The arms hinge out at about a 90 degree, a little less than 90 degree angle, and you can rotate the arms all the way around. He has a swivel on the bicep. and he has a double hinge on the elbow, and he as well has a rotation on the hand. You can hinge that also back and forth. That's both hands, by the way. It's not just exclusive to one. He has the upper torso crunch. You can move that back and forth. A good wide range, really. I mean, you would never display Sinestro. That would be ridiculous if you did. But the fact that you can actually move the torso back that far, that's pretty impressive. And he does have a waist swivel. You can move that back and forth. Legs split out on both sides. And you can move them forward, you can move them back. You can swivel at the 3/4 cut of the thigh. A double hinge on the knee. Articulation in the boot. A little loose, unfortunately. And then speaking of loose, it's not there yet, but I almost feel the makings of it right there on this one foot. It's already starting to develop really loose ankles, and I really hope that's not the case. Please let this guy be somebody that still stands as well as he does now, maybe months from now, weeks from now, I don't know. But again, one of the big problems with this particular line, I've expressed it already, and I know I sound like a broken record for continuing to say this. Lack of accessories is one thing. Lack of accessories you can always pull from another figure line, and yes, he doesn't have the interchangeable hands. That's a bit of a strike as well. But the biggest thing, the biggest culprit for this line continues to be, and it really needs to be something that they have to solve, is those ankle joints. They're already starting to get loose on Sinestro, and I'd be very disappointed if it becomes a figure that I just can't stand up, because Sinestro here looks really, really good. He looks really, really good. Sinestro might possibly be my favorite villain that we've gotten ourselves from the DC Essentials. I would have really held that title for Joker, but Joker let me down. Sinestro delivers exactly what I would expect Sinestro to be, despite the fact that he is, yes, in his Sinestro Corp outfit. Maybe I'm dating myself for saying this, but I would have loved to see an old vintage costume on Sinestro. I guess that's so old school now. Isn't old school now new school? Isn't that how it works? Stuff of old is cool again. I don't know. Maybe Sinestro will go back to his classic colors. In the meantime, though, we get ourselves a Sinestro Corp Sinestro looking splendid in his head sculpt, and really a nice sculpted looking body as well. Proportionately, he looks for the most part good. I don't have as many issues, surprisingly, with the longer neck. Maybe it's because he does have that collar that breaks things up visually, so it kind of convinces my eyes that he doesn't have as long of a neck. I know he has the same body mold as Hal Jordan, and yet somehow with the collar he looks like he has a shorter neck. He doesn't have accessories, yada yada yada. I know I've already said that to death. But at the very least, it's still a nice takeaway figure, and I feel possibly the best figure from this current wave of DC Essentials figures. He doesn't have his accessories, unfortunately, no. And he does have the start of a weak ankle. So I'm going to enjoy this figure while I still can enjoy this figure. And it's really sad that I'm even saying that, eh? The fact that I have to enjoy a figure while it lasts, because I know down the road it's going to have loose problems with his ankles, and he's going to be a figure that's not going to have any real easy time of standing. You really don't want to already expect doom and gloom with this figure, but that's pretty much the road that it's eventually going to go down. DC Collectibles, I hope, continues to produce these figures, but yes, tweaking and adjusting, I think, is required. They need to really fix the issues with the ankles, being the biggest issue. I can really overlook the lack of accessories, but fixing the ankles, I think, needs to be their top priority if they want to continue to put out the DC Essentials waves. I'm hoping this isn't going to be the end of the line. I hope the line will still continue to go on, but changes, I feel, are necessary to make that these figures, give them longevity, so that you're not going to have difficulties with these figures down the road. And not a very long road down the road. I'm talking a few bus stops away. You're probably going to have issues with this figure standing up. Let's hope that's not the case. Either way, let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of the Yellow Lantern Sinestro. Easily my favorite from this line. What a fantastic head sculpt. And also what you guys think of the DC Essentials as a whole. If you guys are new to this channel or longtime viewers and maybe never got around to it, hit that subscribe button down below. And why don't you do yourself a good strong service by hitting that bell notification as well. Apparently it's supposed to work so that when you press that, you get notifications when this guy's putting out new content on his channel. I don't even know if it actually works or not. Keep your peepers peeled, members of the mob, because certainly while we have wrapped up our look right now at the DC Essentials wave, there's still going to be a lot of videos coming your way on this channel. So as always, stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.